Correctly with the correct amount.
And now for our feature presentation.
The Blog Talk Radio.
Correctly with the correct amount.
And now for our feature presentation.
It's Thursday night, and it's time once again for the Untitled Movie Show here on blogtalkradio.com for Thursday, February 20th, 2014. I am your host, the man with 1,000,001 superpowers, Miguel Leon, and you all know my assistant, Mr. Michael Screwman of Steel Burhan.
Yeah, I'm kind of the Wolverine of Retro Unlim.
He walks alone. He walks.
And I like my younger women as well, because Wolverine's like 100, and he likes his women who are like 20 and 30.
Hey, it beats Edward Cullen. He's like 700 and going after high school girls.
Yeah, but he's a pussy. Well, apparently I'm a pussy as well, because I can only do 17 push-ups.
Poor guy. That's fine. I'm sure you're equipped enough to compensate for that.
Yes, I've got more girth than most.
He's the Incredible Hulk of porn, folks.
I am. It's like, don't make me horny. You wouldn't like me when I'm horny. But
don't worry, folks. We're not going to be talking about the Avengers XXX porn, although that would be an interesting topic to talk about, but we won't get into that. We will get. What was that?
Black Widow has some weird lips and that. She looked like a duck.
I've only seen. I'll be honest. I've only seen bits and pieces of it, and that's mostly the She-Hulk scenes, because most people. Those are the links that people post on wrestling forums. It's like, oh, you got to check this out. This is disgusting.
It kind of is. Any scene with China in it is kind of disgusting.
So let's move on from that. Burhan, would you like to introduce our guest tonight?
Yes, making her debut on the Retro Unlim Network today. She's a very, very good friend of mine. Marley Riley. She likes movies and stuff, because we talked about movies and stuff a couple of days ago, so I thought I'd bring her on here and talk about movies and stuff.
Well, we appreciate you having on, and if you haven't noticed by the first 5 minutes of the show, this is going to be a bit of a train wreck, but it's going to be a fun train wreck.
Okay, yeah. Train wrecks are fun to watch, so.
Awesome.
It's very, very bloody. You can't keep your eyes off them, and it usually consists of Asian people.
It's like watching 6 guys do 7 guys, so whatever.
Hop aboard the man train!
Hey, girlfriend!
Well, let's get this train rolling first and talk about some movie news. And it's going to be a special edition of the Untitled Movie Show today. Tonight we are doing comic book movies. We're going to be talking about the history of comic book movies and just hit some of the high points and especially the low points. But before we get into that, let's go into some movie news, some comic book movie news. That's right. I'm keeping this theme going from our news segment and talking about some news bits dealing with movies based on comic books. And I think probably the biggest news we have to talk about, folks, the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer hit. Have any of you guys seen it?
Yes.
No.
Or you have not seen. For those of you who are unaware, the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy movie, the trailer first hit. Guardians of the Galaxy, of course, is based off of the Guardians of the Galaxy comic book, which, for those of you who haven't been listening to us, we mentioned it a couple weeks ago on our show, is not a Stan Lee creation, so don't expect him to pop up into it, unfortunately. It's being directed by James Gunn, who is mostly a writer. He's directed some work. He's a trauma director, so he's a disciple of the great Lloyd Kaufman.
And most people actually remember him for writing Lollipop Chainsaw.
I actually remember him for being the writer of both the Scooby-Doo movies.
The pain of it all.
Yeah, he was the one that wrote the live-action ones. He also wrote the Dawn of the Dead remake, the one that Zack Snyder directed back in the mid-2000s.
That was okay. It wasn't amazing. I watched that in the cinema, and I came out of it thinking this wasn't that scary.
It wasn't. It definitely was more like a metal taste. It's like if George A. Romero, was a big metal fan, he would have probably made it like that. But I thought it was an okay movie. I in terms of remakes, I don't think it was the worst remake I've seen, but it's not one that I go back to constantly. I appreciate it for being an okay movie. But yeah, James Gunn, he got the keys to the Guardians of the Galaxy and he directed it, and the trailer just came out, and honestly, it took me a while to get into it at first, just because I don't know much about Guardians of the Galaxy, but having watched it multiple times today, I'm actually excited for it. It looks fun. Go ahead.
It has that whole sort of space rogues kind of comedy thing going on. And a lot of things that I thought weren't going to work about this movie kind of work. It's like Batista's Drax the Destroyer. He doesn't really have to do much acting. He just has to look tough. And he's pretty good at doing that.
Well, you've got a great cast in this movie. You've got Zoe Saldana as, I forgot the female character's name. Gamora, I believe.
There we go.
Yeah, Gamora. You've got Chris Pratt playing Star-Lord, the main human character.
It's actually hilarious that they have to have a full body shot of him with his abs.
Who doesn't love abs?
That's fine. I get the feeling that that's going to be the case for all the characters, especially Miss Saldana, which, you know what? I'm going to give her the Captain Kirk seal of approval. I'd stick it in her, even though she's green.
Oh, my God.
Well, that's why I preface it by saying I give her the Captain Kirk seal of approval. Kirk would hit it. Am I right, Burhan?
I agree. And Farley, have you actually seen what she looks like? Because I kind of would. It's the same.
She's very attractive for a green woman.
And plus, it's not cheating because she's an alien.
I mean, she's very attractive, even out of character, so that in itself leads to why you'd probably put it in her.
You know what? In terms of some of the other roles she's played, I think this is one of the first notable roles in my mind where she's at least somewhat human. I mean, the only other role I can remember her from was her voice in Avatar as the main female Avatar character, the main novice.
I still think that film's really freaky though, because they stick their hair in animals, and they stick it in each other when they're mating. So does that mean they're technically sticking their dicks in these animals?
I mean, to each their own.
They've brought that up. They've made that point multiple times on the internet that technically.
I have to make that point again. Just saying.
That's fine. But yeah, we're not talking about Avatar. We're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, and I get a really Joss Whedon vibe from it. I know it's ironic to say that since he is the director behind the Avengers, but I get like you said, you get a very Firefly-esque feel to it, and I think there's going to be more of that in the movie. That's kind of how James Gunn writes. He's very much kind of somewhat slapsticky in a way. Like you definitely get that Troma sense from him if you've seen his movies.
Yeah, it's one of those things I think with this movie where it's going to be comedic, which I'm not sure about. I don't get the comedic take to it because the comic books are really more serious. But I can dig it. I can see where it goes. The effects, the characters, everything looks really slick. The way they're shooting it as well, I believe they're shooting it in 4K, so nice. It looks beautiful. But in a sense as well, we've got to see how it's written, how it's acted, because we don't have to see that much from it. We see little tidbits from it in terms of the characterization, in terms of the way they are. Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, it's kind of him doing a bit of a comedy acting. It reminds me of his Parks and Recreation character in a sense.
I could see that, yeah.
But we don't know. Again, this is only minimalist. We're not seeing too much of it, and I think Marvel's doing that on purpose.
Yeah, I kind of get a sense that this is going to be kind of a sidequel of the Phase 2 series. I don't know if they're going to consider it an official member of that whole of that canon.
It is actually, because it actually takes off from where 4 left off. From where
4 left off?
The Dark World.
Oh, Thor. I thought you said the number 4. I'm like 4.
No, Thor, the Dark World.
Oh, okay. I've heard that they might actually, since the Avengers 2, they've already confirmed it's going to be is going to have Ultron as its villain. I'm hearing that they might use Thanos from the end of Avengers as kind of for the Guardians of the Galaxy, kind of build up that character with Guardians of the Galaxy while the Avengers are taking care of Ultron with Phase 2.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see how this. As I said, we're going to see how this goes. There's not enough information for me to judge this movie, and truthfully, I don't want to, because after recently watching RoboCop, my opinion on movies have kind of changed in a sense.
I actually was not going to bring that up, but seeing as how you did, how was it? I mean, I've heard that the RoboCop remake is just okay. It's not horrible. It's not great. It definitely doesn't live up to the RoboCop name, but it's just middle of the road okay.
Okay, the main thing about this movie is it was rushed. You can tell it was rushed because Keaton's character didn't have enough development. He was playing a generic, I'm a bad guy type of character. I think as an actor himself, he deserved a more meaty role. They didn't give it to him. And without that character development, it made what happened to his character in the end all that less enjoyable in a sense, if you get my drift. They tried to cheapen it a bit because they involved certain elements to try and hate him more, but it didn't work. And being the chairman of OCP, you kind of needed a lot more to him. They designed him in a sort of a Steve Jobs type of manner. He's like the ideas guy, the guy who helped build the company. He wanted to get them the weapons contracts so they could get like RoboCop, loads of these cop robots in the United States, the same as the Ed 209 and the cop machines that they use overseas when killing Muslims. But it just, for me, the story in terms of like RoboCop himself, you can understand a little bit about him. The human hand thing looked freaky. They never justified why they still.
Yeah, that's what I read from what's it called, reviews, is that it seemed like there was going to be like almost like a Chekhov's gun with that, where it was going to come into play later in the story, but
yeah.
It never does. Like, honestly, when I first saw that, I was like, I bet you there's going to be a moment where they're going to need his biometrics, or that hand is going to play some type of like emotional role, and it really doesn't. It's just kind of, hey, or even I think it was supposed to be a nod to one of the lines in the original RoboCop. You remember the line when they're rebuilding RoboCop, and one of the nurses says, "Hey, we've salvaged his left arm," and then Miguel Ferrer in there is like, "No, scrap the whole thing. He's going to be all robot." Like, I think that was maybe a way too subtle jab at that line, but I might be pulling too much out of it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you look at it and you think, why is he wearing that black suit? It made no sense. He was in the normal throughout some of the movies, the whole RoboCop sort of silver armor that they had in him in the previous one, and it looked fine, but on the same level with that hand, it just looked too bizarre. They even had a bit where Alex Murphy was just the head and the lungs, even though after the accident his body's like charred, and they could have salvaged a lot more of his human body, but they just didn't do it.
I will give them credit. I do like the fact that they did go in a very logical step in terms of rewriting the story. For those of you that don't know, the original RoboCop is about Alex Murphy trying to regain his humanity after being turned into a robot. In this story, it's Alex Murphy coming to grips. He's still human technically in his mind, but he's now trying to come to grips with the fact that he's a robot. So it's kind of the opposite approach. I can respect that, and it makes sense in that regard. I think one of the things that I've heard that is a detriment against this movie is that they try. Somebody laughing in the background? Oh,
Not on my end.
No, keep going, Miguel.
Oh, sorry, I get derailed easily. Oh, by the way, just a heads up, in about a half hour, if I suddenly have to leave the conversation, it's because the pizza's coming. I've got a pizza coming to being delivered. So
what
just
kind of pizza?
Taco.
Sorry, I'm pregnant and I want to know about every kind of food there is. So
it's a taco pizza from Hungry Howie's.
I don't know where are you from?
Port Richey, Florida.
Okay, Hungry Howie's. I'm from New Jersey and I've never heard of that in my life. So
it's a southern chain.
All right. Have you heard of Wawa?
Yes.
All right. Good. You're good on you. you know then the goodness of Wawa.
Yes, I do. But yeah, I've heard the biggest detriment to the movie is that it tries to do some type of political satire and it tries to take shots, but it never takes a specific stand. Like, for instance, the Samuel Jackson character. Burhan, you still there? Burhan?
Yeah, I am here. I'm just dealing with something at the moment. Keep going.
Oh, like, for instance, because you'll have to verify what I'm saying. The Sam Jackson character is obviously trying to be like almost like a modern day Bill, like their version of Bill O'Reilly, but it never seems like he takes a specific political side. Like he's commentating on what's going on in terms of like a lot of the drone strikes and things like that, which I know they poke a lot of they take shots at, but they never seem to have a point to it. It's not like this is the side we're going to take when we're talking about it. It's hollow satire, and I think they missed out on an opportunity with that. Because I've heard that the actual segments are very well done. Like, Sam Jackson could have easily been, like, a cool rip on Bill O'Reilly and that whole style of reporting, but they never go any further with it. Am I wrong in saying that?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Marley.
No, go ahead.
Okay. His character, I think, should have had a bigger role. He was more on the side of OCP, but it didn't seem like he had a large political angle in terms of it. I think they kind of dropped the ball again with him a little bit in terms of the way that they tried to centralize his character, but it never worked at the same level.
Yeah. Like I said...
Take it, Marley.
Go ahead, Marley. You saw the movie?
Oh, no, I didn't. I was just going to ask a question, but continue and I'll ask in a bit.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, I know people who have seen it and I know people who haven't seen it, just due to the fact that they didn't think that the first RoboCop was even worth remaking in the first place. But would you say this RoboCop is anything in compared to, for better or for worse, than the original, or is it a completely different movie entirely?
It's different in tone. The first one is very satirical. It very much takes shots at modern-day law enforcement. It takes a lot of the shots at the news as well, back in the 80s, which, you know, was ripe for parody at the time. It's very violent, the first movie, the original one. Like, it's a hard R, and it earns every bit of that. This new one very much feels like a modern-day action movie. Like, if you've seen the recent Total Recall remake, for instance, it very much has that same feel. Same thing with the Conan the Barbarian remake.
Okay.
That was a piece of trash, that Barbarian remake.
Yeah, you do know that they're making they're doing a third one, an official third one, right?
Yeah, it was Arnie, and apparently Shia LaBeouf may be in it.
You know what? I don't care. I just want to see Arnie in the role again. I think it feels right. Although I will admit, I'll say it right now, I don't think Jason Momoa was a bad choice for Conan. He definitely had the look. In fact, I want to see more. I want to see Jason Momoa do a character like that in his own movie. You know, I think he had the right look for it.
I think in terms of choices, I don't think he's that great in that. He didn't act that well with it. But again, with anyone who takes up a role that belongs to Schwarzenegger, it's like it was so bad in a sense, but so good at the same time that when you see anybody else's version, it kind of sucks. Like AKA Colin Farrell in Total Recall, even though his was more based on the book, where Arnie's role was kind of different in a sense.
Yeah, John Milius took a lot of took a bit of liberties, and obviously by that time you couldn't really have a more vocal Conan, you know, that more reminiscent to the comics, because let's face facts, Arnie was not the most cunning linguist at that point in his career.
He still isn't.
He's better. He's better.
I was watching an interview he had, I think it was with Graham Norton over here, and he sits there and he goes, I was a director, and the director was telling me, I was saying to him, the word I'll be back don't make sense to me. For me, it's always, I will be back. You understand? I will be back. That's how I read it. And he said to me, well, you should keep acting, because I don't tell you how to act, and I'll keep directing because I direct, so don't tell me how to direct. Funny.
That sounds like James Cameron.
Yeah.
I can see James Cameron doing that.
But the way it said it, I was like, act, Arnie, come on, man.
I mean, this was still pumping. Conan the Barbarian, you got to think, 82, so we're still dealing with pumping iron era Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know,
there was one he did on TV as well, though, where he was manhandling a woman. He was like a criminal in this TV show, and he beat the living crap out of the woman. But he didn't beat her up; he just shook her until she died. It was actually kind of funny because he had this big smile on his face, and he's going, ah, ah, and I just couldn't stop cracking. I was wetting myself laughing.
Well, going back to the RoboCop thing, to your question, Marley.
You
okay,
don't even try.
that I is throwing me off. The I between the A and the N. It's like I want to pronounce it Mariana, but
it's Marlena, like Goldust.
Oh, Marlena. Okay, I can dig that.
Yeah, everyone just calls me Marley because Marlena backwards is anal ram, and I refuse to answer to that. So.
Oh, okay. No, I that's my fault. My eyes are a little bit bad. I thought the L was an I. Sorry about that.
No, I have an I in there somewhere. I just, like I said, it's a no-go. I mean, if you get called anal ram every day of your life from like 5th grade on, you kind of want to disown your own name. So.
Yeah, his name would backwards be Noel Lugim.
See, Noelle, that's really pretty.
Yes, he's a pretty girl.
Pretty lady.
but yeah, going back to RoboCop, if they're worried that this one is going to be like the old one, it's not. It's very much different. It's a lot cleaner. It's a PG, so it's a lot easier to take in terms of the gore effects. It's your standard action movie, and that's one of the things that I've heard about it, that it's not bad. It's not good. It's just kind of, if you like it, fine. If you don't, that's okay too. It's unremarkable either or. So you really got to take it in. You got to really watch it yourself.
So it's not very impressive. You either hate it or you love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
the thing is, I think what people need to not do, and I'm going to give a shout out to Michael Yanacito. He's a mutual friend of mine and Rob Mann's, and he's an awesome dude. He's going to be helping me do some personal training so I can get into proper shape.
You can do more than 17 push-ups?
Yes, I can do more than 17 push-ups.
I was just about to say that, actually.
This is the reason why this girl is awesome. But yeah, basically, she gets me. She doesn't mind mocking me and bringing me down a peg. So yeah, never, exactly. So basically, one of the things that I believe in the whole thing, and Michael was actually making a point to me about it, because when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is kind of shit. But then he made a point where he said, it's not RoboCop. It can be anything by any other name. It's not RoboCop. It's not a remake. It's a retelling. And I think that's probably the best way to look at this. Don't look at it and compare it to the RoboCop of yesteryear. You've got to look at it as its own story. As its own story, it holds up. It's good. It's not amazing. It's good. And that's one of the things that people need to see here. And because it's good, people need to look at it and say, hey, I'm going to watch it as its own thing, and see what I can get from it. But in the end, if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. It's Marmite. But I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it enough. And I think with guys like Michael Keaton, Samuel L. Jackson in it, with what's his name? I keep forgetting this guy's name.
Joel Kinnaman,
and the dude who played Commissioner Gordon.
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. I feel really bad because Gary Oldman is actually he lived in Deptford, UK basically. Deptford only down the road from New Cross, which is like 5 minutes away from my mum's house.
I love Gary Oldman. I think he's one of the best actors in Hollywood right now. I mean,
he's a fellow Londoner. He's one of my people. In a sense.
He's one of the most adept actors I've seen. I mean, the man has played so many different roles. I mean, when you look at his role in The Professional, in The Fifth Element, in The Dark Knight, in True Romance, I mean, in Dracula, the 90s Stoker version, you can never tell that all those characters were played by the same character. But yeah, I mean, the guy can play any role.
He's an amazing character actor, and I think it's someone where everybody needs to take a step back and look at what he can do. He's very diversive. And he was in this as well. I would say he was one of the most interesting characters in the movie, but it lacks character development for anyone but Alex Murphy. And the whole thing, they tried to make Alex Murphy into this one, oh, yo, I'm from Brooklyn type of cops. Hey, you're a snitch. I'm going to go and kill you for taking out my partner, you motherfucker, and stuff like that. And you just look at him and think, really? Alex Murphy, NYPD Baloo, really?
I think it works in the context of the story, because, like I said, they're going in a completely opposite direction with RoboCop. If it works, it works. I guess in your case it didn't, but I'm not going to sit here and be all angry because this isn't. We're not talking about the Peter Weller, Peter Weller, I believe, is the main actor.
Yeah. He is the love of my life in terms of actors, because he's one of those guys that can do B movies. He can do mainstream light movies now. Like, he was amazing in Star Trek Into Darkness. For those of you who haven't seen that movie, you should see that movie because it's fucking awesome. You look at that RoboCop, that was made being a B movie. It was one of those devilishly kind of good, like so bad it's good type things. And with this, it's kind of, they try to polish it up, make it well written, but you can't really polish a turd. The story was never meant to be a serious movie. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, the story actually, do you know where the origin of RoboCop came from?
No, I don't. Enlighten us, Miguel.
It was originally written as a Judge Dredd script.
I never knew that.
Yeah, it was originally written as a Judge Dredd script, but Ed Neumeyer, one of the writers of the original RoboCop, couldn't get Orion to get the rights to 2000 AD's character.
Yeah.
So they had to rewrite the story as RoboCop. It originally started off as a Judge Dredd script, and even a lot of people that even didn't know that could tell. You can kind of tell if you know about Judge Dredd and you watch the original RoboCop. You tweak enough of it, that could have been a Judge Dredd movie.
As I said, in terms of the movie itself, and it's actually quite funny because we're talking about comic book movies. This was a movie that actually got turned into a comic series. Marvel picked up the rights. Eventually it went to Dark Horse with the whole RoboCop versus Terminator thing that they did, which still should have been made into a movie. Apparently the rights were there to be made into a movie, but people couldn't come into agreement from both sides in order to make like both these characters in the same universe. Well, they're going to tie it in where like basically RoboCop was going to be responsible for Skynet.
I think the reason was by that time Orion had lost the rights to both of them, because that's the whole reason that came about was Orion Pictures had the rights to both Terminator and RoboCop. I think by the time RoboCop versus Terminator hit big, Orion had already been dissolved, so the rights for both franchises were kind of in the air, so they really couldn't get it to work. I don't know where the rights to Terminator lie. I think Paramount co-owns the rights, but we'll see.
Yeah, I believe it's been sold off again because it was bought out by an independent company who made the new Terminator movie, Salvation, which again was a very well-written movie, but people didn't want to see a movie about like the war itself, and there were certain bits that kind of made it kind of shit.
I believe what happened was it was bought by C2 Pictures, who were the original owners of Carolco, the company that originally owned the Terminator rights. And Carolco, Orion produced the movie. Carolco had the rights to it, and Orion had the rights to RoboCop. That's why they couldn't get it to work. I was mistaken. But yeah, the rights now are owned by Skydance, and the Paramount is producing the new Terminator movie, which we'll talk about in a bit. Actually, good segue there.
Again, though, that was another movie that was turned into a comic book.
Yeah. Speaking of comic books, have you ever had a chance to see the Frank Miller RoboCop comic book?
No, was any good?
Here's the thing about it. Frank Miller states that basically all he did was take his excised script for RoboCop 3, and basically he took that bit and made it into a comic book because RoboCop 3 was heavily edited down by the studios. They did not like Frank Miller's darker style for that one. This was the one that they were going for a PG-13 with. So he says he basically took his script and rewrote it as a comic book. Here's the problem: that we're talking about late era Frank Miller. We're talking about the GD Batman version of Frank Miller, the All-Star Batman Frank Miller. So there's.
Oh, we're talking about the same Frank Miller that did like fairy princess porn.
Yeah, basically Frank Miller claims that all he did was take his old script and rewrite it, but you read that script, you can tell this was New Age Frank Miller writing it. It very much feels like All-Star Batman and Robin in that regard. So I can't really recommend it. You'd have to see it for yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't knock fairy porn until you try it, okay? Just saying.
You know, you have to convince me.
Hey man, Alan Moore pulled that off.
That's so true. He did. Him and his wife did a whole book about fairy princesses, including Snow White and such. And I feel so dirty for saying this because my kids watch Disney movies loads.
Hey man, Rule 34, buddy. Rule 34.
Yes, I know that for a fact. I just recently watched the Ghostbusters porn.
Me? No, I haven't seen it. I've tried to.
I have. I'll link it to you later on if you like. But yeah, I recently watched it, and all I can say is bravo.
I don't know, man. That might be a little bit too much for my childhood.
I don't know. I stick to Power Rangers personally, but that's just me.
Wait. Is there a Power Rangers porno?
There's a Pink Ranger porno.
I think
Dave, you need to link me to that, please.
Oh, right. I saved that for myself.
I remember Brad Jones had brought it up in one where he did a crossover. It was him and Link. He popped up in one of Linkara's Power Ranger reviews. So he was like, I don't think I have a Power Rangers porno spoof around here. And he's like, but I did find one from Japan. So yeah, I guess there is one. You'd have to ask.
I heard of the Japan one. That was like they have the helmets and it's all naked bodies.
No, there's an actual like lesbian porno with the Pink Ranger in it. She stars in it, and pretty much moral of the story is she's in this dressing room with this other very attractive woman, and one thing leads to another. And to keep it somewhat PG, they
reenact Human Centipede, basically.
Yeah, they do a lot of really intimate dancing with their mouths.
Fair enough.
And they're See, at least I tried to keep it PG. All right.
Speaking of which, we got to give a shout-out to Gamma Epsilon in the chat. By the way, folks, we have a chat going on. And I just realized we've been half hour into this. We haven't thrown out the call number. So, guys, if you're listening in and you want to call in, the number is 718-664-9265. Again, number is 718-664-9265. Call in. Let us know what you think. We're going to eventually be talking about comic book movies. We tend to deviate from the main topic at some points, but you just gotta pull our chain back, and we'll be back. Shout out to Gamma Epsilon in the chat for his comment. Super Sentai with about 20 exclamation points. Right on there, Gamma Epsilon. Right on.
By the way, I'm actually looking into, and if I can actually find, if anyone can source me a copy of the Sentai series, I'm actually going to do a similar thing to the Linkara's History of Power Rangers, but I want to do something with the History of Sentai series, basically talking about the differences between the two, and also about the fact how these series kind of differ and where like Power Rangers kind of spawned on from there. If you guys want to get me a link to that, I would be very much grateful. It will be on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/TheNerdGenius, and also dailymotion.com, NerdGenius. So check that out as soon as I come with details on that, guys. That's going to be coming with a whole slew of other projects.
Definitely check that out, guys. That's going to be yet another thing in Michael Burr hat.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be on camera for these, just to let you guys know. It's going to be me just doing audio commentary over some of the stuff, talking about the properties and bits and pieces. Again, it's not going to be the same as what Linkara is doing quite at the moment. And it's not going to be like once every 6 months.
But I'm totally willing to dance on webcam. I'm just saying. We'll get those views up.
You're going to
hold on. What was that?
You're going to dance for me on webcam, not anybody else.
We'll see. If you play your cards right.
I will play my cards right. We'll play strip poker.
I'm horrible at poker, so
good.
you win.
That makes things even easier for me. And no, Miguel, you can't join in.
That's fine. I was trying to link Marlena the main chat, but I forgot I had the ads you can't block, the ads that pop up you can't mute, so I kind of got an earful of just So yeah, we've got people in the chat. We've got no one's on the caller. Let's move on to the next topic. Let's move on to the next bit of story, because I just realized we've been stuck on one story for the past half hour. We've only got another half hour left until the main topic starts. So let's go into the next big bit of comic book news, and that is the casting for the Fantastic Four movie has finally been announced.
God. What the fuck were they thinking? Seriously?
No. Let's go into this. The main cast has been listed. One of the ones that I think people were pretty much 100% on was the casting of Michael B. Jordan from That Awkward Moment, and the role of the Human Torch, Johnny Storm. I always get Johnny Storm and Johnny Blaze mixed up. But yes, we might as well talk about the elephant in the room. The character of the Human Torch will be a black man.
I think he's cute.
You know what? I have such a very little connection to the Fantastic Four. I really don't care. I just hope for continuity's sake they justify this, because he's still going to be related to Sue Storm. He's still going to be her sister. Her sister. So, is it going to be an adoption thing, or are they going to justify that? I just hope they do.
Well, maybe it's like a milkman thing, or the UPS guy came around a few nights and. I don't know. I think they're gonna make it work. It could be worse. I mean, they could pick Kanye West to play him. I mean, there's worse African American males that they could get to play him.
That's fine. I'm not saying the actor is bad. I'm just saying I know that there's going to be issues with people talking about why they're changing the race of the character for seemingly no apparent reason, and I'm like. Look, if he's a good actor and it works, then it works. I'm okay with it. We've seen it happen before. They changed the race of Heimdall from Thor to make him black for Idris Elba. Probably most famously is they changed the police officer from The Crow from white to black, and that was fine because Ernie Hudson's a great character actor. I was okay with that.
I mean, I don't know. Out of all of the actors and the actors that they picked, I'm really, I think, the most excited that they picked Kate Mara to play Sue Storm. I think she's gorgeous, and I think she's gonna really bring out the character as to the best of her ability.
Yeah, we should mention that the main actors are going to be from That Awkward Moment as well, with Michael B. Jordan. You've got Miles Teller, who's going to be signed on as Mr. Fantastic. You've got Kate Mara from House of Cards, who's going to be playing the Invisible Woman. Obviously, we mentioned Michael B. Jordan. And you've got actor Jamie Bell playing the role of the Thing.
Oh.
Let me just start off by saying I'm not familiar with any of these actors, so let me just start off by that.
I'm not either, and it's one of those things, you look at it, I keep saying that a lot today.
They're all less than 30 years old. They're all almost kids at this point. I'm sorry, I can't get into this.
And the Thing looks like, he doesn't look like the Thing. The Thing, at least in the other Fantastic Four movie, he looked menacing.
Yeah, well, to be fair though, I think they're going to go with CGI in this one, which I think is...
The guy looks like a bitch.
Yeah, I think... I will give that's one thing I'll give Tim Story's Fantastic Four movie credit. I really like the fact that they went with a practical effects Ben Grimm. They went with Michael Chiklis in a rubber suit, not CGI.
Because he looks like the Thing. Michael Chiklis was the right casting.
Yeah.
He's Brooklyn. He had the accent. The characterization of him worked. He looked tough. That's who Benjamin Grimm is. This guy looks like he should be nursing himself on a baby bottle.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, they all look like a bunch of GQ models. They're pretty people in space.
Yeah.
I can't get into that. Like I said, I like Chris Evans as the Human Torch. He fit that character. I liked Michael Chiklis as Ben Grimm. I think he fitted. I can't think of the actor's name that played Mr. Fantastic, but I think he did good as well. screw Jessica Alba. I'm not the biggest fan of hers, so she kind of did something for me.
She wasn't that marvelous as an actress.
She's bland, and I don't. You know what? The only reason people think of her as any sort of name is because of her role. She's one of these actresses who teases a lot. She's kind of like, I have the same issue with her that I have with Jennifer Aniston, where she does a lot of roles that she shouldn't because she's one of these actresses that doesn't have a nudity clause in her contract. So she'll play a stripper, or she'll play a character who is mostly naked through a movie, but she'll be like cleverly covered up, and I'm like, stop doing that. Just stop that.
Well, the most appealing thing about her is her body. I mean, her acting is horrible, and every time she opens her mouth, I want to fall asleep or punch a kitten. And I mean, it's unfortunate.
I can just see like a kid going, "Meow!" What happened?
She opened her mouth. Like, I don't know. If you're not familiar with Kate Mara, she's a very strong actress, and pretty much any part that she has played, she comes across very, how do I put it? She's just very, she's willing to change her personality and her character, as most actors and actresses are, to fit that said character, but she does it so particularly well that it really makes you forget that she's an actual, person. I mean, I forget she's an actual person, but she's just, I don't know, I have a lot of faith in how she's going to wind up doing this. You know, I think she's going to do very well, and the one thing I'm worried about is she does like to get naked a lot, just like Jessica Alba.
No, but Jessica Alba cock teases it. She doesn't actually get naked. She tries to show people that she's getting naked. She kind of insinuates it, but never actually puts the goods out there.
And by the way, for those of you who are going to pull out some of her earlier roles or her role in Machete, body doubles. Anytime you've ever seen Jessica Alba and you think it's Jessica Alba's body, it's a body double. She's never done nude scenes. She has a no nudity clause. It's always been a body double. So let's not pull Machete out of our back pocket because that was not her.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And in terms of Jessica Alba herself as an actress, she doesn't really have that kind of talent to be an actress. It's not like she's, when she did Dark Angel, that's probably as far as she could go. Because everything else she's ever done has been garbage.
Yeah, and besides, you had James Cameron helming that whole series. I mean, James Cameron can polish any turd. The man's a great
I'm not saying she's a bad actress. She's just not that good. And in a sense, I don't think she gets a lot more credit than she kind of deserves. And again, she may prove me wrong. She may do one movie one day that will blow it out of the water, and I'll sit there and I'll eat my words and stick a fucking dildo up my ass because I was wrong, But at the end of that's what you do when you're wrong. But in the end of the day, when it comes to her, it's just I don't see it, and I think she was one of the worst characters in the movie. Plus, Sue Richards was sexy, and she had this whole sort of maturity about her, where Jessica Alba seemed like a small child.
She always has that vibe for some reason. I think that's why, she has a cuteness to her that I think a lot of people like. Which, like I said, it works for some, but doesn't work on me. It's like she's Miley Cyrus sort of thing. It's either some people find her hot. For me, it's like, ew, baby. Fair enough.
I wouldn't go that far. Miley Cyrus is kind of like a prom night dumpster baby, and Jessica Alba is kind of like I'd put my tongue in it at least once. I mean, I would never put my tongue inside of Miley Cyrus, but
I would watch you put your tongue in Jessica Alba once. As I said, as long as
I would for the story,
It's not even a story. This is like my Bill Cosby thing. Like, I would do it because...
Not Bill Cosby again.
Oh, yeah, Bill Cosby always.
We've been having this conversation on Skype for days, and she keeps telling me how much would it cost for me to actually suck Bill Cosby's dick. So...
All right, I'm gonna bail out of this conversation right now and move on to the next one. Bail. Next bit of news we've got. It seems as though MTV has accidentally leaked one of the big plot spoilers for the upcoming Captain America movie. Now, this is a potential spoiler warning, so for those of you who don't want to know about this, you can mute your microphone temporarily and then come back in about 5 minutes, and we should be fine. But MTV recently did coverage of the 2014 Toy Fair in New York City, and they happened to cover the toys for Captain America, the Winter Soldier. And they specifically highlighted the fact that one of the toys announced, and they actually show a picture of it here on Cinema Blend, is of the Red Skull. So it may be a sign that the Red Skull may be appearing as a secret villain in the upcoming Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Is he going to be played by the same actor?
I have no idea.
I hope so. He was polarizing in the original one.
Oh, Hugo Weaving's a phenomenal actor. I love Hugo Weaving.
I loved him in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, man. He was like the sexiest guy I've ever seen in drag.
I'm willing to watch that. I've heard of his performance there, but considering the roles he's played before, I kind of want to see that.
It's what made him. It literally what made him.
Question, out of curiosity. I know this isn't... we're talking about Captain America and the Red Skull. Now, out of curiosity, did no one see that coming at the end of the Avengers when it came out? I don't know if anyone else stayed past the credits, but did no one else notice that the Red Skull was in the end of the Avengers?
Was he?
Yeah. Did no one stay after the credits?
No, I stayed after the credits. The ending credits is where
That was Thanos. That was a blue guy, not a red guy.
No, there was a red guy. It was after they showed all of the it was like the credits after they do the CinemaScope and all that bland BS that no one really wants to sit through.
No,
and the only reason I said, go ahead.
Are you sure that was him? Because I remember that bit. For those of you that don't remember, it's where Nick Fury meets up with the doctor, that's played by Stellan Skarsgård, and he pulls out the Tesseract, and that villain there is Loki. That's not the Red Skull. The villain that pops up in the shadows, and he kind of sees that they've got the Tesseract. That's Loki. I don't think that's the Red Skull. The Red Skull was played by Hugo Weaving in Captain America, so I don't think he popped up at the end.
Maybe I was just really not in a good mindset because I was probably really intoxicated. So never mind, just mute me because
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I just could have sworn that the Red Skull popped up a little bit, but I could be wrong.
No, I believe he might have been killed, but to be fair though, it does not surprise me if this is the case. Because this can go two ways. Either Marvel just decided to make a Red Skull action figure, which happens. I mean, it's like the Star Wars toys. You've got toys for characters that don't pop up in any of the movies, but they just happen to be toys because somebody will buy it. So that could be a situation. But if
hey man, my favorite character is Scout Trooper. Okay.
Oh my God, Brandon! I didn't even see you there. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, host of Sportaholics Radio on Dream Elite, Brandon Lincoln.
Sportaholics Anonymous. This is like the gameplay thing.
He was close enough. He was close enough to the mark.
I'm still working on the whole plugs thing, but yeah, Brandon,
Marley,
what's going on?
Brandon, Marley.
Hi, Brandon.
Sup?
Not much, man. How are you?
Chilling and shit.
Oh, guys, hold on. I hate to cut you off, but I've got a friend of mine on the line right now who's calling in. Let me get him on the main line. My buddy Juan Gabriel Jimenez, he is calling in. He's a big comic book fan. Let me get him on the live chat.
Can I say his name properly in Spanish? Juan Gabriel Jimenez.
Jesus.
That works. Juan, what's going on, man?
Juan Gabriel Jimenez, how are you?
He says it so perfectly.
That's not a bad accent there, Brandon. You definitely work on that. That's why you've got the role. That's why you've got the role as the agent on This Job for Hire.
Gracias, señor.
By the way, people are still working on that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, eventually episode 3 will be put up, which is fine. Take your time, man. Genius takes time.
Very true.
Yeah. For some of us.
Genius.
But yeah, Juan, what's going on, man? It's your first time calling in. How you enjoying the show so far?
It's okay. I have to say I'm rather enjoying it, listening every episode.
And I really appreciate that, man. I dig that you're listening in. We definitely need more regulars. And folks, if you're out there and you want to be a regular just like Juan, 718-664-9265. That's the call-in number. We've also got the chat box coming up. We still got Gamma Epsilon. We got Marlena watching the chat box for us, so she's going to be on there. So if you want to chat with her and kind of get one step closer to being a part of the show, go ahead and do that.
Yeah, chat with me. I'm bored. Just kidding. I'm not bored, but chat with me anyway.
Juan, we're discussing the news that MTV may have leaked the Red Skull's appearance in Marvel through their coverage of Toy Fair 2014. What do you think about this? What are your thoughts on the Red Skull if he isn't part of Captain America 2?
It would kind of practically be a surprise, considering that after the first movie, he practically, he disappeared, but I wouldn't think he's actually dead. I just kind of think that he'll come back at the end of the film.
Yeah,
I thought he got sucked into the Tesseract dimensional thing.
Yeah,
right?
from the Cosmic Cube.
Yeah, so
But
he's he's in Bizarro World.
Well, kind of.
Yes. Speaking of, have we shaken our fists mightily at the Fantastic Four casting yet?
We just
Oh
that.
God.
I
I would just like to say though that considering the Gam, there is possibly they're looking for an actress to play as Dr. Doom, which I'm kind of.
No, I've heard that was false though. I've heard that's been
Oh.
since.
No one needs to fap to Dr. Doom. That's all I'm saying.
I would.
Yeah, speak for yourself, sir.
I would do it in a heartbeat, man or female. It's happening.
Come on, you don't find that metal mask sexy? Am I the only one?
No,
Why
what
do I want
she finds sexy is she wants to be the princess of Moldovia or wherever the fuck he's from.
Okay, Marley, all I'm saying is, as long as there's a lesbian thing going on with Sue Richards, then I'm okay with it.
Look, Kate Mara is a fucking fantastic actress, and
Thank you.
House of Cards is the fucking shit.
See, I'm glad I found someone who agrees with me.
dude, I'm telling you, House of Cards. I want to say the thing, but I don't want to say the thing. I don't want to say the thing because it totally ruins this season of House of Cards.
Don't do it. No spoilers.
I know. I don't want to say
House
the
of
thing.
Cards. It's on Netflix. The whole season 1 and 2 is available on Netflix. I haven't seen it yet. I know I'm the only one out. Michael Burham.
Dude, I'm just saying, there's something happens that it's.
Don't do it, man. Let's keep it spoiler free.
Anyway, I have no faith in her, but I'm like, I just want to know what the thinking was. Are we just totally throwing Ken into the wall, and we're just or he's going to be adopted? Or is it really just going to be a simple fix that Johnny?
If they tease incest, I'm just going to be throwing up all over my dinner.
No, it's adopted. That's got to be the only thing. Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
I suggested the milkman.
The milkman. Yeah, that could be an idea.
Or the post office guy, or
or
maybe the
the
pizza delivery guy, or the plumber. You don't know.
The Storm family rich? I thought the Storm family was just regular schleps.
We've all been there. It's not delivery; it's a porno.
I want to actually put it out there that pornos ruin your expectations on an actual plumber who arrives early and a pizza delivery person being female, because those things just go out the window.
Yeah, no, every female pizza woman that has ever come to my door I've wanted to fuck. That's absolutely.
Yeah, but they've never stayed, so you could give them the...
No, actually, I shouldn't say it's not true, because there have been a few unattractive ones, but 99% of the ones that have come to my door I want.
Yeah, but honestly, let's be serious, not to get away from the subject at hand, but if she's a pizza delivery driver, she obviously doesn't have much going on in her life.
Exactly.
She probably works a second job as a stripper.
Low-hanging fruit.
Oh, God.
Do you want to give her your low-hanging fruit?
Well done, sir. Well done.
I'm just saying, was that not even consideration, or are we just throwing Ken into the wall out the window?
It just doesn't make sense to me. It's like they Hollywood is obsessed with recasting white people as black people. There was even one point they were going to cast Captain America as black. They were going to have Will Smith in contention for the role.
Or I'm going to go a little conspiracy theory here on you guys. The whole reason why they have to do this is because so the rights of the IP don't revert back to Marvel and Disney. Do you think they just we're going forward with this, and Fox has no fucking intention of ever releasing this movie?
It's funny.
The original.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because that's what happened with the Corman Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
They had no intention.
Yeah. The Fantastic Four movie was actually bitten from that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's something just to restart that clock. So.
If you've seen it, it's actually bitten. The Fantastic Four the first reboot that they did, because from the unreleased, actually steals a lot of the footage, a lot of scenes shot by shot from that movie.
You mean Tim Story's Fantastic Four?
Yeah, from the one that they did to keep the rights to begin with.
Oh, so Tim Story's Fantastic Four is kind of an unofficial remake of the Roger Corman one in a way.
Yeah, it actually fights that movie hard. I was watching it and I was like, I've seen scenes before, then watched the other one, and I was like, that's just a more polished one of that one. That's kind of gay.
Well, I've said it before. One of my biggest issues with this new cast is that they're all supposed to be scientists and the best in the world at what they do.
They're all very young.
They're all young. They're all kids. I mean, I can't buy into it. There's nobody there that...
This kid genius thing.
Yeah. Juan, what do you think, man? You're the comic book You're one of our comic book experts.
Well,
what do you think about the new Fantastic Four cast?
Well, it kind of reminds me of the whole debacle with Daredevil, as like a few years back they actually wanted to do a movie with Daredevil, but because the license expiration, they didn't want to revert it back to Marvel, but they had to make a gamble. Either keep the Marvel Knights property to them, but they would also have to risk either the X-Men or the Fantastic Four, or they let it go and they keep Fantastic Four and the X-Men, so they finally decided to just let Daredevil go. I just think that at the last minute they decided to pull something out of their own ass.
Yeah, that is out of their ass. That just it doesn't look like they've had much thought to it. It's just like, oh no, let's get some random people. Let's make Johnny Storm black. I think the entire conversation, the entire basis on this movie is them saying, let's cast Johnny Storm as black. That's what it is.
That's why I was okay with them changing the Doctor Doom to a woman. I'm like, all right, they're going whole hog on this. Let's see where this goes.
It's not gonna be great. It's gonna look like a disaster, and I think
I just take whole hog as just like a really vain, really vague dick reference.
Now wait, do you think by any chance they maybe got a little bit of a racial influence here, where people would have been pissed if they're like, oh, there's no black people in the movie? I mean, not to be, I don't want to be like the person who has to put that out there, but like honestly, it happens more than it doesn't happen now. If you see a movie that has like barely any...
The Human Torch is black. Thanks, Obama.
That's not what I meant at all, but like I feel like it would cause controversy if there wasn't someone of a different ethnicity than Caucasian in the movie.
Totally.
Well, let's put it this way. It's for that same reason why I'm afraid of the upcoming Akira remake. Have you guys heard anything about that?
I have.
America!
I have.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful though. I'm hopeful.
No, because from what I'm hearing, that's one of the things they're considering about the main gang in the movie. They're considering having like one black member, one Latin member, one Asian member, one woman, one Indian member, and basically making it a multicultural gang so that they don't offend, so they can better market the movie and not just have it be a racial thing, which I think defeats the whole purpose of the Akira movie. I mean, it's a Japanese gang.
They're all going to be Japanese people. Okay.
I mean, They did it. They were able to pull the whole racial thing off in every single episode of Power Rangers and or the movies. Why can't, I don't know, I feel like maybe maybe we're too quick to sit here and say, oh, this is going to be shit, how are they going to pull this off, and we're not giving it a chance to, hey, maybe it's going to be really good. Maybe we don't know what they have in store, Sorry, I'm just I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Don't mind me.
I'll say this. Let's wait till the trailer. When the trailer comes out,
shit.
and we see, when the trailer comes out and we see what it looks like, then we can judge.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Marley, we'll have it this way. If I'm right, you've got to do whatever I ask.
Oh, I enjoy bribery. You're so sweet.
Let's do it. Whatever I ask. No questions asked.
See, that scares me because I feel like Horsage would be involved, and then there's going to be Channing Tatum with a ball gag, which, that's not technically something I would be opposed to. The horses, not my thing.
That was based on my memoirs, basically, the Channing Tatum with the ball gag. That's what I wanted. That was from my blog.
Okay, I have one question, honestly. If we do this, can Bill Cosby be there?
Yes, he can. He can watch.
I could do
All right.
Bill Cosby.
With the wooden bops and the...
All right. Hold on. Don't you dare ruin Bill Cosby for me, all right? We're going to move on.
He's coming back to NBC.
I dare ruin the Cosby show for me.
Please.
All right.
Do
Before we move on, because we're getting into the 9 o'clock hour, I do want to ask our two most recent guests. We talked about the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer and what we thought about it. We'll start with you, Juan. What do you think about the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer? Have you seen it?
I have, and I'm impressed that they're deciding to go about this route of not going so ultra serious with it as many other comic book films have. But I do think that it's kind of a good direction that they're going with this time around.
I agree. We talked about that. I like that it's kind of deviating from the down-to-earth, ultra-serious movie and going more, almost a very Firefly-esque route, with a little bit more slapstick to it. Very much in the same vein of a James Gunn movie, which, if you've seen his works, you can kind of tell. I'm impressed, and I forgot to mention this before we get to Brandon. I had forgotten how awesome Blue Sweet's Hooked on a Feeling is. I forgot how awesome that song was until I heard that trailer, and I've been listening to it all day today.
I think what you said it best was we'll see until we'll see a trailer, because I was not really sure about this movie. I was like, Batista, Chris Pratt, I don't know, because Chris Pratt could be a leading man. Zoe Saldana's good, but, she's just going to be wearing makeup and looking hot again. And then Vin Diesel as
Bradley Cooper as voice of Rocket Raccoon.
I actually like him as Rocket Raccoon. I think he's awesome as Rocket Raccoon.
It's a talking raccoon.
Yeah, but he does. Have you seen Bradley Cooper's impressions that he does of everybody? That guy.
I'm not saying Bradley Cooper's not a bad actor. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying I didn't have. It was a comic book from the 60s. I wasn't aware of the modern adaptations and reboots of the comics that they did. So I was just still thinking it was still the campy Starman comics from the that I remember not reading but looking at. I just remember looking at this and I don't want to read this. This is a campy.
Sorry.
No, I was ranting.
I was going to say, I don't know, I think everything that Bradley Cooper's been in has been a pretty decent movie, other than the fact that, Jesus, look at him, he's gorgeous, and anytime I see a picture of him, I have...
We're waiting for your ovaries to explode here. We're expecting to find out about Bradley Cooper's acting, not
even
about...
Even with the Jufro in American Gangster? Even with the Jufro?
The only thing I'd never liked him in was, The Hangover Part 3.
That was terrible.
I didn't like Hit and Run. I didn't. Wet Hot American Summer, I didn't like.
Place Behind the Pines, I just saw that recently.
Brandon,
that's all right.
Brandon, you and I can both agree we defend the A-Team.
We do. I'm a defender of the A-Team. The A-Team was good.
That movie's fucking rock. Anybody that thinks that movie doesn't rock is a Nazi.
Oh yeah, Bradley Cooper Bradley Cooper stole that movie. That movie was awesome.
But again,
Yeah,
back to my original point about Guardians of the Galaxy. I was very impressed by the trailer. I now want to see this franchise, and I now want to know more. And I was like you. I was wondering why did they go with "Hooked on a Feeling," and then I found out that that's something that Rocket Raccoon sings. That, and I'm like, all right, now it all makes sense. Now it all tunes in, comes together. I am now eagerly anticipating Guardians of the Galaxy.
I don't know if I'm eagerly anticipating it, but it looks fun. I might go watch that.
I like now that that the Marvel universe is branching out into space now. Like, I wonder if the Collector is going to show up in that.
Well,
Collector's in there.
he
This
appears
is the
at
thing that links that movie to the Marvel universe. The Collector is actually in Thor: The Dark World, and he actually makes his way into Guardians of the freaking Galaxy. That's what it's all about.
It's really sad to think about it, is that we got the Collectors, but yet people have always asked, what about the Skrulls? And I go, the Skrulls are owned by Fox because Fox also owns Fantastic Four. So The only way you'll see the Skrull is if they appear on the Fantastic Four.
I believe that was what they... you mentioned before about Daredevil. I believe, and I remember a couple of years ago, Disney actually was in talks with Fox of... they were actually going to let Fox hold on to the rights to Daredevil, but they said, we'll let you hold on to the rights to Daredevil, but we want the rights to the Skrulls, the Silver Surfer, and Galactus, because they weren't doing... This was before they announced that they were doing a Fantastic Four reboot, so they said, we know you want to do a Daredevil reboot, but we want the rights to those three characters, and we'll let you keep Daredevil. And Fox said, no, we're going to hold on... We'll let you take Daredevil, and we're going to hold on to these guys. And then I think that's when they started up on the Fantastic Four reboot. So we almost got the Skrulls and those other characters. We could have gotten those in the Marvel Universe.
Right. And what's even interesting is that, I'm going off on a little tangent here, is that when you look at the whole idea of Marvel, of many people wanting X-Men to revert back to Marvel, since Marvel can't do any X-Men movies in correlation to the Avengers, I think we're going to a different superhero family that is going to be headlining much of the stuff that is going to be happening with Guardians of the Galaxy. If you look at the whole pattern with Guardians, we're eventually going to be seeing another cosmic family pop up, and it's not going to be, how can I say, it's going to be, it's already happening in the comics with Inhumanity. So it's going to be Inhumans.
Yeah, I can see it, because Inhumans are tied to the Fantastic Four anyway. They originally spawned from Fantastic Four itself, so I can see them doing that. It would be... the thing is, I just think if Fox played ball with Disney, they probably would be making a lot more money and be able to tell better stories.
Right.
Well, we'll see how it goes. Maybe Disney with all the Phase 2 stuff will get enough money to get back the rights. I mean, it's all a money game. If Fox thinks they can get more money out of selling the rights to Disney than making movies, then they'll do it. I mean, we'll just need to see. In terms of like the X-Men and stuff like that, I'm excited for Days of Futures Past. I really am. They won me over.
I am too.
It's interesting.
The promos look amazing. I think revolving it around Wolverine is probably a good idea. I
like the fact that they pretty much knock Part 3 out of continuity. This is for the most part. I think it's with the way the time travel thing works. I think they're kind of going to go back and kind of right a lot of the wrongs that 3 did. So I'm all right with that because I hated 3.
You mean basically kill Brett Ratner off? I think that's what they need to do.
Yeah, this is basically Brian. This is basically
mulligan.
This is basically Brian Singer going in, going, sorry about that, nothing to see here, squeegee, squeegee.
Don't pay attention to that other movie.
Not to interrupt, but I actually am reading something right now, going back to the, back to the Fantastic Four movie. I'm reading now that Kate Mara actually may not be playing Sue Storm.
Yes.
This was just updated today. She said she hasn't heard anything, and that it is now, it's a possibility that it is a rumor that started on Twitter.
Ah.
Please, God, may that be true. Please, God, can that line up not
Because
be not
even
true.
she commented about Michael B. Jordan playing her brother.
Oh, okay. Well, at least she pointed out the fact that that's kind of a bit of an odd casting decision.
It is an odd casting decision. I'll put this out as well, guys. I have no issues with multiracial characters. If
guys,
you want James Rhodes to be black, let him be black. But to have someone white as James Rhodes wouldn't work. Right? Or Latino as James Rhodes wouldn't work. So what they need?
Human Torch is black. Thanks, Obama.
It doesn't work at all. It makes my skin crawl in a sense because it means there's potential to have a love interest thing going on with him Sue. They'll hint at it. It's Fox, for fuck's sake. They'll hint at it.
I'm still going with my conspiracy theory that this is just like subterfuge to reset the clock on Fantastic Four. They have no intention of releasing this movie. This is just to maybe stall and in case something comes along.
You know what? If they do that, then I will rate them wholeheartedly.
You'll declare a fatwa on them.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
unless they decide to actually, decide to go the route of, Future Foundation, I don't think they have any. I don't think the Fantastic Four have any interesting ideas.
Sorry about that, folks. I kind of had to run off and open the door for the pizza man.
Taco pizza time.
Oh God! I had to take a bite out of it real quick. Trust me, when this show ends, I am so going to get all up in that pizza. Oh my God, it is so good. That pizza's going to be all up in my guts.
What did you step on?
I didn't step on anything.
No, my roommate and the godfather of my child just stepped on a push pin and I watched him dig it out of his foot and I'm going to go vomit it profusely everywhere.
Oof. So, have we finished the discussion and move on to the main event?
Yes, we can do.
Maybe.
All right.
Should I drum roll?
No.
It's my Michael Buffer impersonation?
No. It's cool. Folks, we're just about to start our main topic, so if you want to get in on this, like our friend Juan, you can call us in at 718-664-9265. Once again, 718-664-9265. It's the Untitled Movie Show, Episode 7, Comic Book Movies. Just as an inside joke between me and Juan, I tried to get Marco on the show. I figured if there's one guy who we needed to get on this show to kind of give us an insight on comic books, it would be him. He's a buddy of ours who does stop-motion animation with Marvel action figures. He has a collection of 1,000 action figures. He is a Marvel fanatic, and I really wanted to get him on, but I told him to call in around 9 o'clock, and he hasn't called in yet, so we'll see if he shows up. No, he's a great guy. He's really good. I kind of wanted to get him on so we can promote some of his works as well.
Yeah, he probably is getting
Maybe he's doing the dirty.
It's good. I mean, the man is a player himself. The man's a pimp.
So he might be doing the dirty.
Hey, he's got nothing on my nephew, okay? My nephew just cop-blocked me today, so that's nothing on my nephew.
You're just jealous because a 6-year-old has more game than you do.
I'm completely and utterly jealous.
I could totally just eviscerate you right now, Burhan, but I'm not. I'm gonna be a man and just not.
His nephew's my boyfriend.
Eviscerate.
She's eviscerated me already. My manhood has been cut off, and it's in her purse.
I think it's pretty good, but that was in the chat.
My manhood is in her purse right now. I can just see it.
Owns that shit.
It's sitting there. It's kind of teasing me.
Well, we couldn't get Marco on, but Juan, you think you can help? You think you could give us some insight on comic books? You think you can kind of fill in that role for us tonight?
Try. Big comic book nerd right here.
Okay, all right. In fact, let's start that off. Tonight we're going to be talking about comic book movies, and let's go around the horn and ask you guys what your experiences with comic books are. Burhan, we'll start with you.
1982, my dad had a comic book collection, all number ones. He was caught with porn, and basically my mum threw all his comic books out, including a special edition Spider-Man number 1, first printing, and also a Fantastic Four number 1, first printing.
And he didn't set this woman on fire at that point?
No, because he kind of deserved it. He had porno mags in a briefcase in the toilet.
I don't know if that, considering how much those are worth, I don't think that's anywhere near worth.
Just so he cried. He did cry for the rest of his year.
Share popcorn with me.
And also, then my dad collected a huge other number of comics, including Punisher, Guardians of the Galaxy, believe it or not, the Infinity War, and a few others. My first glimpse of getting involved in X-Men and stuff like that was through my dad, and he was actually the one that because of his love of comics, I actually know how to draw. I can illustrate stuff. It's kind of weird. So, Michael Burhan will start showing people some of his drawings and stuff, not sketches and bits and pieces lying around. So,
my name is Burhan, and I like to do drawings.
Paint me like one of your French girls, Michael.
This girl's destroying me. I'm literally in love right now. Anyway, that's pretty much it. My experiences with comics, so I know everything. I keep up to date. I read anything from like Superior Spider-Man, the Funk Scarlet Spider series, aka New Warriors now. I've been reading loads of Marvel Phase 1, Marvel Phase 2, DC's New 52 comics, even though they're getting a bit boring. Favorites including Green Lantern. So, yeah, I rock that shit.
Alrighty then. Brandon, what's your experience with comic books? Do you consider yourself a comic book fan?
I mean, I'm a comic book nerd. I never really was big on the collecting. I definitely...
I collect one PC.
I definitely spent a lot of... so digital versions. I never really had, massive collections, but I guess my first... And I remember always... My first exposure to the comic universe, other than the Batman television show, which... This is still the reason why Batman's my favorite superhero to date. I've just always been fascinated with superheroes and comics and that shit. I read them sometimes. Sometimes I just look to know what's going on.
Sometimes he masturbates too.
No, a lot of the time I masturbate. Let's not go there.
No, you'll throw me out one day and just masturbate. Yeah, it was so far episode 2 is him having sex with a hooker, so come on.
I mean, I did it 2 hours ago. I mean, that's just...
And let's segue on to that. Juan, what's your background with comic books, buddy?
Well, I haven't really collected comic books when I was really young, but I did follow the cartoons that that Fox production did at the time, as well as Marvel, I forget which. But I've been following comics after, during the events of the Civil War and onward. And I've always been an X-Men fan, and a lot of the stories were very interesting, and I still keep up to this day.
Marlena, do you have any background with comic books? Are you a big fan?
I like comic books. I grew up with comic books. I don't know. I was always really big into Batman as a kid. I don't know, there's something about a guy who has his parents killed in a dark, dirty alley that really just kind of does it for me. But
that's what happened to me, totally. That's what made her swoon. Told him the story.
I was also really...
Be honest, Marlena. Is the car right? Chicks dig the car.
I mean, I kind of just dig Batman. I don't know. He's just... there's something... Him and Catwoman. Anyway, we're getting on the wrong topic here.
Yeah.
I was also...
Before Marlena starts reading her Batman Catwoman / fiction.
Oh my gosh, you don't even know how many of those I have. We would be here forever. No, I was also really big. I was also really big into the Incredible Hulk and into Wolverine. Now I've gotten really big before the TV show came out. I'm really big into The Walking Dead. Really, really big. I have like a strange, ridiculous fascination with zombies, and it's kind of questionable, but yeah.
I keep forgetting that show is based on a comic book. I always forget that. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a comic book first.
It's a really good comic book, and also 28 days later, or the 28 series, 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, do also have I wouldn't necessarily say a comic book, but it's more of a graphic novel, and it's I would suggest to read it if you get the chance to. But yeah, I like comic books.
That's the reason. You love Danny Boyle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who doesn't, though, really? Trainspotting was an awesome movie.
It was. I have to agree with you. I did a review on that. www.youtube.com/nerdgenius.
And see, I'm kind of in the same boat as Juan and Brandon in a way. My first introduction to comic books was in the 90s through the comic book cartoon boom that we had, especially a lot of the works that Marvel Saban was putting out, like the X-Men series, the 95 Spider-Man. You had the stuff like the DC Batman Adventures. I mean, one of my first movies that I ever watched was Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which is a phenomenal movie. It still holds up even to this day. You know, I watched that growing up, obviously the Marvel Saban stuff. I'm right now, in terms of comic books I'm following, I'm trying to get into the Green Lantern, pre-New 52 Green Lantern. I've got a few issues
Blackest
of...
Night.
Yeah,
awesome.
I've got a few issues of Blackest Night. I'm trying to get the full set, but trying to find all the last issues of them is a little bit more difficult. And expensive. Obviously, it's a money thing. But my big thing is I want to go back and go through the Jeff Johns trilogy. So I'd love to get my hands on Sinestro Corps War, on Rebirth, and kind of just go through that trilogy. Just because I like the Green Lantern. For some reason, just the thought of a Ring of Power is really cool to me. You know, it's all that power in such a finite shape. It's just something really unique. But yeah, I've always mostly followed comic books through the movies. And comic books have had a pretty tenuous relationship, a very on and off relationship. It's kind of hard to believe that, given how big comic book movies are, it took a long time for them to really get this much of a mainstream appeal, especially when you consider how old comic books are. You know, you think back to the fact that Superman was made in the 1930s, and you didn't really see anybody take advantage of that maybe until the 1970s. I mean, you had cash-in movies like the Superman versus the Mole People from the 40s, I believe, which was a cash-in on 50s, which was a cash-in on the George Reeve Superman. It very much was just an episode of that series made into a feature-length film. You had the same thing with the Batman, the Adam West Batman. That the Batman the movie was basically just an extended version of one of the episodes of the TV series. But
well, I think the reason why we didn't see that until Spider-Man came out, that every other comic book movie they had tried to do had really failed, other than Batman. And the Batman movies were, didn't really end well. Especially that awful Batman and Robin.
Well, we'll get into that. I'm going chronologically on this because I was going to lead up to what I consider to be the first real mainstream hit comic book movie. And that would be Richard Donner's Superman.
Yes.
What are you guys' thoughts on that? We'll start with you, Burhan. What do you think about the original Richard Donner Superman as a comic book movie?
It was groundbreaking. The character itself, the way he was done, the fact that Christopher Reeves, a very polarizing actor in his own right, was portraying this character, the music, everything made it work. And for that time, to have a superhero like Superman being portrayed so aptly on screen, it really helped. You had great direction, great writing, and great characterization of him. And then they fucked up with the rest.
Marlena, have you seen the original Richard Donner Superman?
Like the 1978?
Yeah, the 78 Superman.
Yes, I did.
What was your thoughts on it?
I personally loved it. I think for the time, I don't want to say the time period because it's going to sound like we're way older than we actually are, but like the era that came out in, I think it was wonderfully done. I think everything that Richard Donner did, I mean, he could have done some things better, but for the most part, I think it was an outstanding movie. It got, I think, like, it didn't get a perfect 10, but then again, what movies do? But it was pretty high up there in rankings. I think the fact that they had Gene Hackman play Lex Luthor, I think he did that beautifully. Christopher Reeve, fantastic Superman, known as probably the best Superman. Every time I see a Superman movie now, I'm kind of like cringing because I don't think anyone will do it as good as he did it.
Well, let's put it this way. For those of you who are listening, go back and listen to our episode 2, where we basically spent 2 hours pissing and moaning about Man of Steel, and we'll let you know how we think about the more recent adaptations of the Superman franchise.
Yeah, I hated Man of Steel, but we're not even getting into that.
I thought Man of Steel was the best Dragon Ball Z movie ever.
I second that. Gather the Dragon Balls.
But Brandon, your thoughts? Superman, the 78.
You know what? It's iconic because it's Superman, and Superman's iconic, and it was like you said, the first real comic book movie of the modern age of filmmaking, with special effects, and Christopher Reeve became such an icon because of that movie. And then first of all, I want to go say I don't hate Man of Steel. I didn't hate Man of Steel. I enjoyed Man of Steel, actually. I just thought it was the best Dragon Ball Z movie I have ever seen.
Yeah, Juan, your thoughts on the 78 Superman?
Well, I've seen clips and footage for the film. I haven't really seen it entirely, but it was a very fantastic. It was very good for its time. It played an original story, but the problem is that after that movie and after 2, it just kind of fell off the wayside, playing the same old story over and over again.
Yeah, we'll get into that when we get into the 80s in about a second. I like the movie. I like the fact that compared to how most comic book movies are, it has a very heavy feel to it. It doesn't feel like a popcorn movie. It felt like Richard Donner was actually trying to make a film with it. Almost in the same way, I get the same feeling from the 78 Superman that I get from the second Batman movie. Not Batman Returns, I mean Dark Knight. It felt more heady than just your average comic book movie. It felt like it wanted to try to do a little bit more with it. And I think for its time, I think it very much did that. It pushed the limits on special effects. Richard Donner went out of his way to really push how those special effects were. He really wanted to give the sense that, Chris Reeve was flying, which had never really been done at the time. You have the script, which, by the way, do you know who wrote the script for the Superman movie?
Boom.
Mario Puzo, the writer of The Godfather. Yeah, the writer of the Godfather book.
Well, bam.
Yeah, he had no idea. And what's funny is he wrote it not knowing anything about Superman. He was like, hey, you wrote The Godfather. The Godfather's a big hit. We want you to write Superman. It's like, I know nothing about Superman. And he kind of found a good balance. Like, it feels like a movie that was written as a serious script and not written by, like, a fanboy. But at the same time, it still doesn't completely betray the essence of Superman. It really finds a great balance, and I think that's what I love about the movie.
He also wrote Earthquake, and if you haven't seen that, you should probably see that movie. It was 1974. Just saying.
The one based on the one that spawned the Universal ride?
Earthquake?
Yeah.
I believe so. It's about the earthquake that hits LA.
Yes, yeah. There's the ride at Universal, which is actually pretty.
Yep.
Cool. But yeah, Burhan, you were going to say something before we cut you off?
Yeah, it basically gave Superman that kind of edge at the time, and Christopher Reeves kind of brought the character out of its shell in a sense. He put a face on the Man of Steel, which was something which people wouldn't dare toy with. And it worked. It worked really well, and it made history in a sense because it brought out this slew of superhero characters in that day and age. But as I said, it was bastardized because everyone started copying and pasting it. And the second movie, Don only was like halfway through the bloody thing before he got fed up and left.
Yeah, he was kicked off. The Warner Brothers kicked him off the set, and yeah, he was about almost 75% of the way done. And then they brought in Richard Lester, who refilmed a lot of that movie in his own style. And honestly, I've heard the Lester cut is very much comedic. If you want to see Richard Donner's real essence and what he was planning with that movie, go out and find Superman 2: The Richard Donner cut. I've heard it's a much better version. Be forewarned, because Donner didn't finish a lot of those footage, you see a lot of test footage that's spliced in, so the quality kind of flip-flops from point to point, scene to scene. So if that's something that annoys you, I would suggest not picking it up. But if you really want to see what Richard Donner was seeing for Superman 2, his vision, definitely check that out.
I personally didn't like it at all, just due to the fact that, you know, he's sacrificing his powers to marry Lois Lane, and I don't know.
It's played better in the Richard Donner cut. Richard Donner really does more of a serious take on that, and he really fleshes out that storyline better than Richard Lester did.
No, I agree, man. Superman can't not be Superman.
The thing is, I wouldn't have had an issue with the fact that they made it into a dream sequence. That would have been fine by me.
I don't know. I'd never sacrifice my powers for some vagina.
I don't know. It's not.
It has to be vagina. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I would eat the cider.
We don't know what Margot Kidder's packing. We don't know. She could be a beast, man. We don't know.
That shit must be like the Claw.
You don't know. You're looking like you don't know.
But yeah, we go from there into the 80s, and it's funny, as big of a hit Superman was, it didn't start this revolution of comic book movies. You didn't see many other movies except for, obviously, the Superman sequels.
You know what, though? Because I think it was a different time culturally. We were interested in different things. Star Wars came out. We were still in the Cold War still, so James Bond was still pretty popular.
You had the slasher boom of the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. There was a lot of other things that comic book movies were competing with, and it was there wasn't the market for it like it was.
Well, before we get to the next big movie down the list, we do have to bring up that Marvel at this
you have a
list,
list,
the 80s.
Don't you? You have like an actual list, don't
no,
you?
No. I've got some sticking points I want to hit, some key movies. But before we get to the big one, it's fair to note that Marvel was not sitting on its laurels. It did actually try to get into movies a lot sooner than people think. Are any of you guys? No, not that. Are any of you guys familiar with the Canon Group? With Canon Films?
No.
Yes, I'm familiar with
I'm
them.
not sure.
As in, I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Like Canon Films, Canon Group?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Canon Films was responsible for a lot of B movies in the 80s. Basically anything starring Chuck Norris, Jean-Claude Van Damme, or Charles Bronson, like the Death Wish sequels, those were Canon. They did a lot of cheesy style movies back then. Their biggest claim to fame for most people is Masters of the Universe. But in the late 80s, they actually had to deal with Marvel to make...
So they made awesome movies, is what you're trying
Like
to say.
Hercules.
I believe that might have been Canon. That might have been an Italian movie.
You did not name three people that I do not associate with cheese. I named Chuck Norris, man of class.
Charles Bronson.
Charles Bronson is a fucking hero.
And Jean-Claude
Van Damme is, you know...
Hercules was done by Canon, the original, in 1983.
Oh, really? Okay, so they did do the Canon. But they actually had to deal with Marvel to make 3 movies. One of them got released. That was the Dolph Lundgren Punisher. That was them. But that was such a low budget. That was such a low... Burhan, what was that?
I liked it.
I haven't heard anything bad about it. It just did not get released very wide. It kind of just snuck onto... it had a small theatrical release and was mostly a home video release. But you know what? It fits to me. Dolph Lundgren as the Punisher. I can dig that.
Well, Canon also originally owned the rights to Spider-Man.
Yes, and I'm going to get into that because that was going to be their third movie. Their second one was Captain America, but they were having financial issues, so they gave the distribution rights back to Mannheim Golem, who was one of the owners of Canon Group, and he produced the movie himself under his 21st Century Pictures thing. I haven't seen it, but if you want kind of a shorter version of it, go watch the Nostalgia Critics review of it. He actually reviews the Captain America movie. But But yeah, they also had the rights to Spider-Man, but they unfortunately bounced a check with Marvel and weren't able to get it out onto the. They weren't able to finish it, so that happened. But Marvel tried to get into comic books in the early '80s through Canon Group. But like I said, you didn't see many other comic book movies. I mean, it was mostly TV stuff like the Incredible Hulk series. But in 1989, we have really a movie that revolutionized marketing in movies and just how to present a movie to the masses, and that will be Tim Burton's Batman. Tim Burton's Batman was a monster hit. I mean, you think the stuff around the Avengers back in 09 or 010 when that came out was big. Imagine that in '89 and bigger. I mean, this was a huge event movie, and it made a ton of money. What do you guys think about the '89 Batman? We'll start with you, Burhan.
I loved it. That's all I can say on that matter. Is I loved it, and Michael Keaton was amazing. You know, he's one of those guys that you look at it and you think, wow, you know, his acting was flawless. He could play a very pivotal Bruce Wayne, and he could play a very sort of dark and deceptive Batman, and that's what you wanted. Jack Nicholson as a Joker was flawless. He was really good at the character. He understood exactly how to pull it off. In terms of the characters themselves, it was great for what it was, and I applaud Burton for the choices he made, because he stopped Batman from being a really sort of campy sort of character and turned Batman into a dark, very...
You know what, though? They weren't so dark, because I was actually just watching Batman Returns yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, it is, you know, certainly not 1960s Batman campy. At times, some things in the plot lines certainly seem a little hackneyed.
I think that's very much a Burton, and I think that's more due to Burton's style than anything else.
Like, I mean, Catwoman's whole thing was she wasn't really necessarily a superhero or like a hero or anything. She was essentially like a cat zombie.
Well, she was the anti-hero.
Yes. Or like she wasn't like a kind of like she's a vigilante cat zombie. That's what I equated her to. And also it seems sometimes like the way it seemed like Michael Keaton was fighting. I was expecting like sound effects, like the sock crack.
Well, I kind of agree with Film Brain when he did a review of Batman Returns. We're going a little bit ahead of ourselves with it, but I think to me the movie kind of... Batman Returns is an example of a director going too far with his ego. I think Burton kind of out-Burtoned himself, you know. He kind of went too far with his style, and I think it really is it was a turn-off for me. I'm not the biggest fan of Batman Returns. I would prefer the original one. I think the original one feels to me like a great mixture of studio and director. You know, you can tell
his version of Gotham, like how he just pictures the city and the architecture and everything else like that. That to me is perfect.
He keeps he basically keeps the Art Deco style that we've come to love about Batman.
That's the one thing I really kind of missed about Nolan's Batman movies was that style of production design, and everything was just big and ostentatious. Like the silver bases of the chairs were just like ornately designed and stuff like that. I don't know. Like you said, Burton being Burton.
Basically, the rounded buildings look that you see in like the cartoon series,
or just like it's something like some innocuous building, like the Hall of Records. I'm going back to Batman Returns, which I just saw again, like literally yesterday. The Hall of Records is like this building that has like three giant like things like holding up, not just regular columns. They're carved out statues holding up the building.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, like I said, I think Returns is a little bit too much with the style over substance. I think the original one is the perfect example of it. It's a very cohesive story.